the minister's title has changed. Now it includes, Canadian culture. I would imagine then the department should have a definition of that so that they know the end they're working toward or the goal that they're looking to achieve. What is the working definition of Canadian culture in the department?
It's interesting.
The Canada Strong Pass, it was talked about a little bit by the minister when he was here because pretty good program. You provided free or discounted admission to national parks, to our museums this summer, historic sites, even some train travel. Is the government subsidizing the lost revenue for these groups that I've just mentioned?
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
5 minutes. Awesome, thank you. I guess my question is this. When it comes to the formation of the budget, obviously the finance minister is the one that completes that process, brings it all together, but I would imagine it's up to each department to put forward requests in terms of how they would like their funding allocated. Am I correct in that?
You are absolutely correct.
Okay, so the Heritage Department then has put forward to the Finance Minister its priorities and where it would like its allocation of dollars put.
That's correct. We have always to do it within certain instruction. The Minister of Finance gave instruction about what he expects, so we have to respect that. Sometimes they limit the number of the men or they limit the way we should be doing it. Mm-hmm. But yes, the Minister present his request to the Minister of Finance.
Okay. So are you able to confirm with us then today the status of that request for the RCMP Heritage Center? Was it requested that that would continue to be funded to the full amount that it currently is?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that for one reason. It's a cabinet confidence. The conversation that happened around the budget, it's like a conversation at cabinet. It is a cabinet confidence, so I'm not in a position to reveal what the minister proposed.
Okay, so you're not able to talk about any of the priorities that were set in terms of how money is allocated for this budget?
I can talk about the priority of government, but I cannot attach it to what was requested specifically for the budget exercise.
Okay, thank you. One of the changes that has happened, of course, is the minister's title has changed. Now it includes, Canadian culture. I would imagine then the department should have a definition of that so that they know the end they're working toward or the goal that they're looking to achieve. What is the working definition of Canadian culture in the department?
It's interesting. It's probably, I won't get it perfectly right from memory, but in our departmental report, it defines our mandate, and it includes culture, but it's also include diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. It's also include heritage, official language, and sport. So all of these things are defined in our mandate, and the better definition than what I can do is actually in our departmental report.
But the phrase Canadian culture is defined then for the department?
I mean, it's defined in the term of what's the mandate. What's our mandate to support culture? But it's not a definition like you will find, for example, for the purpose of taxation, where you give some money to some organization because they produce certain kind of content. So it's different from that. It's okay. Defined more in terms of mandate, like supporting culture, industry, and things like that.
Can that definition be made public? Can it be shared with this committee?
Yeah, absolutely. The departmental report describe what the department role is in supporting the culture.
Do you mind sending that to us just so that we can take a look at that? Yeah, thank you. And then just with regards to online harms legislation, that was introduced by this government in the last parliament. Yeah. It came up just a bit earlier. The minister has said that he feels it's important. He has said it's coming. There's a lot of people that I think are anxiously waiting for it. When is it coming? What is the time frame?
That would have been a very good question for the minister, because it's more in his bailiwick than in mine. Yeah.
Okay, so the department doesn't know.
The department always stand ready to serve when the government wants to table something, but the decision as to when to table things is the prerogative of the government.
Has the department been asked to work on this at all?
We haven't stopped to think about it because we know that people care about that, and we receive open letter almost every day asking us to do something, whether it's for children or deep fake and all of that.
Right.
So it's part of our mandate to always work on that and reflect on it. But the final decision as to what it will look like and when it will look like is the prerogative of the minister.
So I guess what I'm curious about is what steps have been taken to start developing a framework for this legislation?
So we had already C63, as you mentioned. So that's already a framework that was based, as you will recall, because you were here, on a lot of consultation and advisory committee and all of that. So we have that. But obviously, the world doesn't stand still. So we continue to look at what other countries. Deepfake was not so much an issue when we start to look at the bill originally. So today, Minister Solomon gave a speech in Montreal, and he said that's one of the issues that the government want to address. So we, as I say, we keep updating it as we go along, if I can say that.
Okay.
Our country is grappling with rising anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. Could you speak to the programs the Department of Canadian Heritage has to support community-based initiatives addressing this trend? And would you be able to share how many funded projects are currently underway?
Great. Thank you very much for the question. And I think it is really accurate the way that you've sort of characterized the situation across the country in terms of some sorts of division that we're seeing. And we're really trying to tackle challenges that are facing communities through a number of different programs. I think first and foremost are really the programs that are under the multiculturalism and anti-racism banner. And so we've had a number of calls in the last year and been able to fund community organizations across the country in terms of programming that is aimed to bring people together and to combat hate, to tackle anti-racism. And we've also had a separate program that we launched earlier this year, which is the National Holocaust Remembrance Program, particularly targeted at anti-Semitism. And in that regard, we've been working with and providing funding to a number of Jewish organizations. To do so, we actually worked with the Special Envoy on combating, on Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism to identify Jewish organizations across the country that would have the capacity to carry out these projects.
Fantastic. Madam Chair, how much time do I have left? 30 seconds. Brilliant. Then a very quick one. The Minister highlighted that we've seen incredible rates of journalistic representation as it pertains to diversity across our country. Would you say that diversity within that element of diversity across the country from a cultural standpoint leads to differentiation in terms of perspective from a journalistic standpoint?
I think that's why we create the narrative fund, because there was a feeling that there was not enough representation in the media, in cinema, and etc. And that's exactly the goal of that program, is to see more different voice and having people getting the chance to be on whether it's a newspaper or a media, and therefore make the story even richer.
I have Mr. Waugh first for the Conservatives for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think I've seen 7 officials ever. I've been on. Yes. Yeah, I've been on this committee for 10 years. I don't think I've seen 7 officials from the department in front of me, but that's another. Does anyone know the GEM numbers? You know?
We don't. And
have you asked?
It would be a good question for the CEO. I think you have called her before this committee. Maybe that's a good question for her when she appears.
Yeah. Does the Heritage Department think it's important to know?
Madam Chair, it's hard for me to pronounce because it's under the Access to Information Act, and they have applied the legislation, so it will be myself second-guessing the application of another act by another organization. So I think asking her directly would be the best course.
So we hear of a possible 15% reduction. I say possible because I've been around the House for 10 plus years now, and they say one thing and do another, but 15%. So have you looked at your budgets? And Ms. Mondou, in fact, and you were just in Regina, and you know my interest in the RCMP Museum. And the department has 2030 kind of said, we'll give you 12 million over the 4 years. Is that still on the table?
So I had the pleasure in Regina to meet the chair of the board, and she's coming the week of October 6th, I think, and we'll meet again. There was in the FES 2024 some money for the museum for not this fiscal year, but next fiscal year. So we have a bit money from the FES 2024 that is for the museum. But obviously this is something that the budget decision are not made by the department, they're made by the Minister of Finance.
Yeah, I think you can appreciate the angst, if you, okay? I mean, they have done their budgets. They want to be a national museum. We have so many here in the Ottawa region, and maybe in Halifax, Winnipeg, and now the RCMP Museum in Regina, but they would like to know if the fall economic budget from last year, which said, I'll give you in the next 4 years, $3 million each. So what would you say if they're watching now and they're coming in October, they've had discussions around the table, and they want to know if that funding is there or not?
Thank you for the question. I will say the same thing that I said to the chair. They have done amazing job. You are absolutely right. They have done amazing job over the last couple of years to really bring new consultation, deep work in bringing that solid foundation for the museum. But I will say also that ultimately those decisions are not mine. They will be the Minister of Finance, and therefore that's only I can hope for it, but I cannot tell you for sure.
So what was, I think, linked as a great possibility of 12 million to 2030, you're saying it isn't guaranteed anymore, right? Is that what I'm listening to you?
What I will say is we had a change of government between the FES 2024 and this government. It's a different government, so they have to obviously decide if they are still comfortable with the decision of the previous government.
Same government.
Yeah,
just a
but
different
it's still,
leader.
in law, it's still a different government.
That's disheartening, though, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah.
Because when it was promised, then the wheels get pushed in motion, and they're a little angst. I did meet with them. You were in the city. And they should be on their tippy toes, if you don't mind me saying right now, because there doesn't appear to be any commitment, even though the public safety minister wants 1,000 more RCMP officers 7 steps away from the museum. You're not really committing any money now to the museum that I see, the 12 million. Is that true?
So the organization also met with the minister and discussed exactly what you have raised. So they have here, the minister have heard them.
The Canada Strong Pass, it was talked about a little bit by the minister when he was here, because pretty good program. You provided free or discounted admission to national parks, to our museums this summer, historic sites, even some train travel. Is the government subsidizing the lost revenue for these groups that I've just mentioned?
So the PASS program was basically cost neutral for the organization that participate, and they are going to be indemnified for the cost of offering those services for free.
So if I go to a national park where I usually pay, and now I didn't pay because it was free, how are they going to even their budgets out, if you don't mind me asking?
My colleague would be happy to take that one.
Andrew.
Yes, thank you very much. And the way that we will be, we did keep track of those that have come into national parks and national historic sites, those that came in for free, and we will be compensated for the value of those individuals coming into national parks and national historic sites over the 2 month period of the Canada Strong
Number
Pass.
B.
So right now we're at about 10 to 11% increase over our previous year, 24-25. So we will be looking at once we get our final numbers, we'll present them to the Treasury Board, and we expect to be remunerated for that lost revenue.
Could you give our answers, if you don't mind, your answers? Could you provide them in writing to the committee? We would like, because we probably won't see as many of you here, but we would like to know the numbers over the 2 months, the dollar value, and, you know, are you going to compensate? And we'd
Thank
like
you,
to know
Mr.
those
Waugh. You're out
numbers.
of time, but I will leave the analysts with that
Yeah,
request.
good.
Okay.
Science World in Vancouver, BC, beautiful British Columbia. It is the second most photographed building in North America, second only to the Statue of Liberty. Science World has been making a lot of impressive progress under the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings program. They had extensive roof repair. They actually had a leaking roof, that dome. So the roof repair, new HVAC, solar panels, and insulation upgrades, reducing energy use by over 40% and cutting greenhouse gas emissions by more than 66 tons annually. However, the revitalization project does not cover the extraordinary geodetic dome theater, which is their essential systems such as sound, projection, and seating, which will require an additional 10 to 12 million. So given the importance of Science World as both a cultural and educational hub, could you speak to possible funding streams that major heritage and cultural facilities like this can access the funding that they need to complete?
So there is two ways to do that. We have a program on infrastructure. The minister mentioned a bit about repair equipment, but it also can be used for construction. But it's a relatively small program for a whole country. So what we often do is we work with our colleague at infrastructure, and we try to make sure that infrastructure and cultural organization also apply in the big infrastructure or bigger infrastructure programs, so that they can have access to sometime a bit more money, as you mentioned, 10 million or more. And so it's a combination, I will say, of the Department of Canadian Heritage for the one that are maybe more mid-sized, and for the big one, it could be the infrastructure department.
Because this is really...
Thank
Oh,
you.
am I still...
Sorry,
Oh,
Ms. Royer, you are out of time.